Hi, welcome to this week's astrology report. I am Jody Shirami at astropod_cast. This report is for the week of August 15th through the 22nd, next Friday. We are at the last week of Leo. As the 22nd, the sun will slowly shift into Virgo that evening. So right now we are at the decan of Leo Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is the mutable fire sign that's ruled by Jupiter, who's currently in Cancer. So we are having a very, very productive week this week as the moon goes around. It's going to meet up and do a lot of meetings and have a lot of meetings here that is going to affect all of us collectively and personally, because again, the moon is a personal sign. So today on Friday the 15th, the Taurus Moon is in a 3/4 square to the Leo Sun at 1:12 p.m. Eastern. What does that mean? Well, anytime there's a square and a little tiny quarter square, it's going to be very powerful because it's such a little tiny area for that square to that energy to move around. And so this is a very uncomfortable emotional day, and according to Rick Levine, it's really a day where we should sit still and kind of be mindful about how we're feeling and what we are being spurred to do and act with the moon here in Taurus. Again, the Taurus moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus is currently also in Cancer, having just met up with Jupiter last week. The moon here is very stable and loyal with its square to Leo. We're having this little need to want something, desire something, but the sun is saying, well, if you want something, you're going to have to really figure out how to get it and like it and do it with integrity. That's causing a little bit of tension because Taurus moon doesn't really move quickly, and the sun is moving quickly out of Leo pretty soon this week. So the moon has to kind of really internally figure out its values and what it is it wants today. So collectively, we're dealing with these values that we all hold dear and true as they're going up for review quite a bit. And then on Saturday, tomorrow, Mercury, which is in Leo and is now starting to move. It's about 5 degrees now. It started moving on the 11th and 12th, and it really hasn't really just moved about a degree. That's about it. And so Leo in Mercury is going to sextile, which is a nice little communication, like hugs and kisses. How are you? It's going to sextile Mars in Libra. And again, it's going to be at 6 degrees of this sextile. So that means Mercury has moved 2 degrees since it stationed direct on the 11th. It's starting to pick up speed, and that's what we're going to notice this week is how quickly Mercury is going to pick up speed and go over these degrees until it gets to 15 degrees. And then when it gets to 16 degrees later on next week, we will be in new territory that we haven't gone through yet this year with all these different planetary aspects happening. So right now we are still in that retrograde, post-retrograde hangover from Mercury, and so by next week our brain will start to hopefully clear out all these things that we might have been thinking about for really this whole past summer. So again, with this today, the square going on with the moon, we really want to take things easy and slow still because Mercury isn't quite up to speed yet. And you'll see Mercury's going to catch up with Mars here. As it sextiles Mars, it's going to eventually catch up to Mars also. But Mars is moving pretty quick, but Mercury is the fastest, quickest planet since it is right next to the sun, so it moves around quite quickly around the sun, and it is a personal planet also that controls our communication. So Mercury in Leo is really full of integrity, and it is ruling over Gemini, which is the Gemini moon is getting ready to move in, and it's also ruling over Virgo, where the new moon will be this week. So the Mercury-Mars aspect is, again, like I'm saying, they've met before and then they're meeting again, but then next week they're going to meet again. So it's really it's really interesting, like I said last week, where Mercury is going over the exact same degrees that Mars did when it was retrograde in Leo and heading even as far back as Cancer, then moving forward again to where Mars is now in Libra, moving forward with a lot of energy and a lot of what it's learned. And so now Mercury is awake and starting to move quite quickly through the same degrees that Mars is, and eventually soon Mercury will be in Libra also. So these are things that we really should be thinking about, because again, the universe, as I spoke about last week, is that our mind and our actions have to come together with our heart in the Leo season, because Leo rules the heart chakra. So we are dealing with Mercury in our heart chakra, asking us to really align who we are inside, outside, and action-wise, right? So we're really dealing with the top three of what we are, which is the sun, the moon, and the rising sign. If you don't know your rising sign, you need the time that you were born. But if you don't have that, a lot of times your rising sign can also kind of blend in with your sun and how you see yourself and how other people see themselves. Sometimes that can help. But really having the time of day you were born and where you were born is very important for the rising sign. It's kind of a key piece of why you might feel when you're in public, people see you differently than who you are inside. So that's why it's really helpful to have your rising sign. Because once I figured out my rising sign, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So the moon moves into Gemini today on Saturday at noon on the 16th. It's going to sextile Saturn at 1:28 p.m. Then it's going to sextile Neptune at 2:54 p.m. in Aries on Saturday. And then it's going to trine Pluto in Aquarius at 3:31 a.m. into Sunday. So the Gemini moon is quick. It is communicating again. Mercury is in Leo. So this moon is being ruled by Mercury in Leo. So, wow, Gemini is the great communicator, full of information. So what's happening here is that the Leo sun, again, the Mercury Leo, is communicating emotionally to us to lean into our love for ourselves and have integrity and love yourself and do things so that you will be proud to be who you are, so that you can move forward during this time as it moves in. Because again, as it's meeting all these planets, all these things that are in effect with the Kite, the grand Air Trine, all of it's being activated over and over and over. So the next couple of months, we're going to be talking about that a lot, especially as they begin to shift back into the previous signs they were in. So this is a long-term commitment with the grand Air Trine. Has Pluto in Aquarius. And in Gemini, it has Uranus. And then right now, it has Mars in Libra. That is the grand Air Trine. And then the top of the apex of that kite is the trine between Neptune and Saturn at the apex of Eris, trining Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. So we have the bottom part being the grand Air Trine, which is in effect as Mars is in Libra, and Mars will be here for a little bit longer, but not much. And it's very difficult to get these planets all in alignment. It never has happened exactly the way it's happening right now during our history. As far back as we've gone, Heather Hemsworth has gone very far back, and again, it's been 12,000 years since this grand trine has even happened in air signs, and I don't think they were even in air signs back then. They were just in a grand trine, which again is super big because we're talking about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Those are the big three out in the universe floating around. Visits every sign, maybe 12 years, 20 years, comes back again. It's very, very powerful, this karmic energy. And so it's going to be in play during this very powerful month of August. And we will talk a lot about that next week as the new Virgo moon moves in. The reason this is very powerful energy is that, again, Uranus is in Gemini, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury right now is in Leo. Right now, the time period that we are in, the quality of time, as AstroDience.com likes to start their newsletters. In the quality of time that we are in, we are really can be confused. So that's why a lot of these outer planets being retrograde is helping us to be able to see far ahead to maybe 20 years from now. After Pluto leaves Aquarius and heads into Neptune, we can start to see what could happen right now out in the real world in real time as things are moving along and is showing us what's happening. So before the planets shift as they're retrograde back, we're getting to see a lot of things that have already happened, and what are we feeling about these things that are happening now, and do we want them to continue to happen? And I say, no, I don't think we should be going towards an authoritarian government. I just don't see that how that is going to help humanity in the long run, because really humanity is a bunch of different things going on, and to qualify one being better than the other, is not balancing the dark and the light, which is what Leo season in particular is about, as it balances itself with Pluto in Aquarius, its opposite sign. And Pluto's the dark lord, and he's going into Aquarius and showing you the underworld of that sign, Aquarius. We really have some work to do, but we have plenty of time. You don't have to get too excited, but you do need to start something going. If you have a dream or something, it's a good time to start thinking about it, doing research on it, get going on it. Not to say, whoa, am I going to miss out if I do it at the right time? You're not going to miss out, because it's a transit that's happening, and it's going to have residual effects for years and years and years. So depends on when you get in on it, what your chart says about your life, your birth, what the cards say. You can see the future, and you can decide then with your free will which way to go with it, right? And that's really the human condition, is trying to figure out, what am I here on Earth to do? Why did I choose to come on Earth, right? Mercury and Mars perfects its trine on Sunday, 8/17, August 17. That's the day that what we're feeling starting today. On Sunday, it will come along, and we make sure with Mercury and Leo, and again our Mars in Libra, that we really know what's going on with Mars, because Mars here is in a sign that isn't about war, it's about diplomacy. So Mars meeting up with Leo Mercury here really has to know itself and not go off the deep end because it wants something. And again, Venus rules over Libra, and Venus is in Cancer. So Venus again is very homebound, really protective, really into food and family and picnics and all those things that's happening right at the end of summer, when families get together and have their little memorial thing or whatever they do together, right? One last time at the house on the ocean, on the beach, whatever it is you do. One last meeting before we all go back into hibernation, right? Because a lot of people will be going into the cold weather soon up in the northern hemisphere. Really take your time with that, and use the balancing of Libra, cardinal communication to really make sure we're speaking in a loving manner, and that all parties are involved, are balanced out, not just one side of the warmongering, giving the victim a chance to talk, because we realize right now the victimhood is out the door. We don't really want victimhood to be the thing that motivates you to act. We want you to be healed from your victimhood and then act from that enlightened space of what it is that you're seeking. And this again is going to take a long time, because not many people are in touch with who they are and what they're feeling and thinking and why they act certain ways, why they do what they do. It's like a baby knows more of what it wants to do than you might as an adult, because a baby has no worries about what other people are going to say about them and judge them. So they can act out of innocence And that's why children are gorgeous and beautiful. Then on the 18th, the Gemini Moon at 29 degrees is going to have a little bit of another meetup. Now it's turn to meet up with Uranus in Gemini. So Gemini Moon here is going to conjunct Uranus and Gemini, and because Uranus and Gemini is in that configuration, the moon is now in that configuration, just like every time something moves through these planets, they will be involved in this configuration, correct? So that's what we're thinking about right now. And so really with Neptune and Saturn at Aries, they are the apex of this kite. We've spoken about this many times, and that is a need to start over, loosen up Saturn's rules and box that Saturn likes. And Neptune, look into Neptune showing us the delusion of that box, of that structure, of these institutions that continue to not serve us, although they're meant to serve us. Like the government is meant to serve the people, not the powerful, rich people, not the king and queen. We got rid of that in America a long time ago, right? We don't want the king and queen. So here we go. We're still fighting that same battle because no matter how many people came from England back in the day to escape the king and queen's persecution, as it turns out, a lot of those people were rich people, but they weren't royalty. And so they came here and wanted to be royalty, especially during the Gilded Age, which is a TV show on HBO, which I absolutely love, and it's already done. I swear, when I'm watching the Gilded Age, just the season, every season there's 8 to 10 shows, and they go so quickly. That's how you know you love a show, when you're waiting for it to come out, and then, oh my God, it's already done. So I think I'll go back and rewatch some of the ending shows. It's so good. But again, that's what art does. Art shows you what you should be learning or what we're thinking. I know art is subjective, but so is the human mind. It's very subjective, and the human heart is completely subjective, right? So I think subjectivity needs to come into the world a little bit more as we learn to balance others' need with our own needs, right? Pluto, Leo. And on the 19th, the Leo sun trines Chiron and then Eris at 27 degrees of Aries. So here is a deep healing again as the sun meets up with these planets at the end degrees of Leo and Chiron and Eris. Mars' sister Eris, they're at the very end of Aries. So they've already been in there helping us to be a leader in healing ourselves, because Aries is a cardinal fire sign. So Chiron here has been fueling us up with our own internal healing by us self-healing ourselves through meditation, through mindfulness, through learning and observing what it is that we need to change to make ourselves better and happier people. So we are ready for this new timeline that we're entering now. And then later on the 19th, the Cancer Moon moves in at 3:05 p.m. All my times are Eastern time, and it conjuncts at 6:02 p.m. Jupiter. Cancer Moon moves, the moon moves around quite quickly. So now Cancer Moon is going to run into Jupiter, and this will be happening as every single month as Cancer comes back here. So next month they will come here again. So Jupiter is here next to Venus. They're quite close, but they're not conjunct anymore. So Cancer Moon is also going to run into Venus on the 20th, which is the next day at 8:27 a.m. So everything that's happened is always going to go into the next day because these planets are close, but they're not so close it can happen on the same day unless they're conjunct, right? So what does this mean? It means that Cancer Moon here again, it's going to feel like Venus and Jupiter, because then it's going to go meet up with Venus the next day. So basically, it's just almost a repeat of Venus conjuncting Jupiter last week is what Rick Levine is saying, and how it might be too much it's, your ice cream. You might eat too much ice cream, or you might put too much sugar in your pad thai. Like, I like to make my pad thai kind of sweet. So sometimes you might put too much honey in your coffee, or too much sugar. That's what we're saying, is that, again, too much of anything is not a good thing. If you have spurts of energy, that's fine, as long as you relax after that spurt of energy for a while. If you keep having all this energy go, 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 you're going to burn out, and that's not going to help anybody if you burn out, especially yourself, right? So really take this day kind of easy and enjoy the sweetness that's coming, emotionally sweetness. Emotionally, you're going to get what you want. Like, if you want a cupcake that day, you can have it. Again, it all comes down to free will, and watch what you do. And then it shifts on the 20th. The moon at 7:16 a.m. moves into Leo, and now we have the setup for the Leo moon to go opposite of Pluto. As it speeds up, it's trying to Saturn and Neptune and Uranus and Gemini, and then it opposes Pluto in Aquarius. And again, we're talking about our emotional health when we're going against Pluto, where we need to really throw out something that no longer serves us. And it's really difficult emotionally to release things. Doesn't matter what sign you are, air moon, earth moon, water moon is the hardest to release things, obviously. And a lot of earth things earth sign moons are difficult for them also to release because they're of the earth. And then air signs, they can have a hard time releasing something from their moon that they love because their mind keeps thinking about that person or that thing that they want. You see, it's not so easy to release things emotionally because the moon just controls our emotions. And so we have to really meditate on this day and release what we need to slowly and surely over these next few months and years. It can take a lot of time. It's just how the human is made. But having the outer planets forming that formation really kind of helps us in terms of the moon is going to have meeting with those outer planets, and it's going to actually support us. So it can be difficult, but it will support us. And so once you release that anchor or whatever it is that's holding you back, you'll see a lot of quick movements, especially now that Mars is moving ahead and Mercury is picking up speed. Now the moon on the 21st of August, that Thursday, the moon is going to conjunct Mercury in Leo at 2:13 p.m. Again, here we're going to deal with our emotions and our speech, and hoping that our heart and our speech match up, just like the moon meeting up with Mars will be our emotions helping our actions. Here we want the moon to help with our words that comes out, especially as a Leo. Leo's very bold. Leos are the royalty of the cosmos. It's the sun. It's the center of all the planets. And so here with this happening, it's going to be kind of a powerful day of saying things that need to be said with integrity and higher purpose to help people see the future, especially with Mars in Libra, who is a cardinal sign. We have some super powerful energy here for people to stand up and be themselves, for people to go for their dreams and not have doubt and worry, because that's what universe is really trying to help us with, is like, don't be afraid, be moving forward at your own pace. And then Friday, when I'll be back on August 22nd, the retrograde motion is repeating, because again, now the progress that we've made is being reviewed again, because again, don't forget, Mercury's moving over these steps that it's going back, right? On Friday the 22nd, it's quite a powerful day in terms of, as the day occurs, the sun and the moon are at 29 degrees of Leo. They have a little bit of a communication with each other, and they begin shifting into Virgo together after they've had a little bit of confrontations going on with the other outer planets, as you can imagine, right? Because now it's going to shift into Virgo at 0 degrees. That's going to be the point of the new moon. So the sun shifts into Virgo at 4:33 p.m. on the 22nd, and the moon moves in at 2:06 a.m. And the new moon in Virgo will conjunct and arrive with the sun and make a new moon at 2:06 a.m. on really August 23rd, the next day. The new moon comes in. Whoa, right? And the big deal is that it is going to have these aspects. Next Friday is going to be intense with all these things moving around and then culminating in the new moon that night. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, again, we're in Virgo at this point on the 22nd. The sun is in Virgo. The moon also follows quickly into Virgo, and they meet up. And the moon's moving so quickly it runs into the sun at 0 degrees of Virgo. Now, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And so Mercury is in Leo still at this point at about 14 degrees. So it's getting ready to go into new territory next week on the 23rd and on in Virgo season. Mercury will be starting to move along. This is a big deal because the new moon in Virgo and the sun together at 0 degrees is going to square Uranus also at about 1 or 2 degrees of Gemini. Basically, the sun and new moon are going to square Uranus in Gemini. And Gemini is ruled by communication, talking, being a public figure, speaking. And then the moon and the sun are in Virgo, ruled by Mercury, but an Earth Mercury, a Mercury that thinks more practical and deals with your health and your body. Whereas Gemini is dealing with your mind and how you talk and how you communicate, how you share your ideas, how you get your ideas. It's going to be squaring Virgo, ruled by the Mercury that is more practical, more down to earth, thinking about our health, thinking about our food, thinking about the harvest, because that's when Virgo is, the harvest. When they square each other, they're really, again, it's an internal mind thing that you have to deal with personally, and the whole world will be dealing, because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So Mercury is in Leo. So the sun is ruling this new moon in Virgo. Wow. It can get very confusing till you come right back to the sun and you realize all of the sun has left its home and now it's going to school. It is still ruling your inner self, who you are, your integrity, your sovereignty is ruling this square, this new moon. So now we have to really get our thoughts, our communication in order. They have to align with this new moon. So the new moon is the beginning of this alignment that the earth and the cosmic energy is giving to us. It's helping us to say, oh, now we can think and say what it is we exactly are thinking. And when we speak, it comes out the same way. I've always thought that this was, kind of something I didn't understand, because my Mercury is in Leo and my sun is in Leo. So the fact that my sun and my Mercury are the same with Jupiter here, I've always been able to philosophize with Jupiter, thinking about things and say it out like this I'm doing now. And a lot of people, especially when I was younger, didn't really appreciate me saying things that were coming out of my mouth. And now I realize that this is because a lot of people don't say what they mean. There's either a square in there, an opposition, or something where you communicate either your emotions or your sun where something isn't coming out correctly. Now, some people can have their moon and Mercury in the same place, so how they're feeling is exactly what they're saying. But then their moon and their Mercury may not match their sun, their outer persona, how people know who they to be inside. It might not match that. So there's a lot of miscommunication flying around the world, as we can see, and there's all kinds of lawsuits, all kinds of defamation lawsuits, all kinds of stuff going on. I hope that this will help people to say what they mean and mean what they say. Right? Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm a person of my word. And that's great, especially if your emotions and your speech match up, or your sun and your speech match up, right? But a lot of times, like, my emotions are Neptune, so I'm wishy-washy because I'm too fish going, should I go this way, should I go that way? And that's part of the life of a person in the 12th sign, is that they get everything in Neptune collected and gets dumped down there into the ocean, to the deep ocean. Not the surface ocean. The deep ocean is where Neptune rules. You know, it rules over all this underwater earthquakes occurring right now. It rules over all the animals down there. It's underneath, way, way deep. All the animals that can live in the darkness, way below. So when Neptune's involved here, a lot of times you might not want to say things because people may not understand you, so you may not say things the way you want to. If you have Neptune, if you have Mercury and Neptune, you could be a really good sci-fi writer, artist of some sort. At this point in time, with this potent square happening with the new moon, it's also going to be quincunxing Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, and making a new moon apex, where that new moon in Virgo is going to have a meeting with Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. So it's going to make a yod, 2 yods. And so this is super, super powerful, very energetic, because the sun is here involved. And you're going from the sun to Mercury, and Mercury is the great communicator, is the one that can go behind the sun and have a cazimi and come out renewed, and which is what it just has done, and it's sharing its energy with us, and it received from the sun as it's in the sun sign of Leo. So this is so powerful that Rick Levine says you need to control your energies, you need to be efficient with your energies, and you need to take time. And so I see it as a time like the Queen's Gambit, where you're playing chess. You have to really be methodical and strategize, because I love playing chess, and I never knew I opened up with the Queen's Gambit, because I don't know all the technical terms. I just know when I played chess I would do this Queen's Gambit a lot. I would say that listen to Rick Levine and take your time. And then Jupiter, who is in Cancer, is also going to have square Uranus and the sun and the moon. So again, Jupiter's the benefic, giving you lots of energy. But if it's squaring these energies, it's going to be a box full of explosives, right? Because Jupiter will go in there, because Jupiter rules over Saturn and Neptune. So Jupiter goes in there, and there's just so much stuff going on in that box. It could blow up with Uranus here and Pluto also being involved. So on the 22nd into the 23rd, really take care. So really take it easy on the 22nd. I will be back then, and we'll talk more about this, because that next week, the 23rd on, as we head into the end of August and Virgo season with the new Virgo moon, this will be our blueprint to start moving forward with our minds and our communication, with Uranus being pinged here in Gemini as Mercury's in Leo, giving you the boldness and the integrity to stand your sovereignty and say what you need. Say it. Rebel. It could happen, right? With Aries here with Saturn and Neptune. Rebellion is not far away. It's already occurring. And people when we get together, we can change anything we want for the better, but we have to start changing things because it's going to really take us a couple years, but we got to start now. We just got to start the grassroots movements, and we got to really come together and start changing our minds. Getting rid of these bricks, whatever it is that's surrounding your mind where you can't get out of that mind. You have to understand that these are all prejudgments that you've learned. It's not maybe necessarily true. Maybe you're not that way. You just don't know. You have to eventually find yourself. And that's what this is about. So if you have children, this is really good time, as I do with my children, to really motivate them and give them the confidence they need as Leos and Mercury and the Sun's here. Give them the confidence they need to be standing there on their sovereignty and support them. And of course, you're going to want to give them some structure. But then as they get older, they can do what they want with that structure. But first, they need that structure. They need to know what's right and wrong. And when I say right and wrong, I mean being a good human. Doing the things you would want someone to do to you. So that's how I see this time is really Leo Sun, Mercury, and Venus is getting ready to move into Leo on the 25th. And then Mercury is going to shift into Virgo. And then Mars, it's going to slip from Libra into Scorpio, which is its own sign. So it always happens this way. The fall season on the Northern Hemisphere always stirs up energy because it's eclipse season. Same with the spring. It's eclipse season. We're going to go into eclipse season here coming up next week. And these eclipse seasons are going to be super powerful this year because, again, we are in new territory. Mercury is going to move forward into new territory starting on Monday at 16 degrees of Leo. We're really going to be having all these ideas that are coming out of nowhere, and we really need to dream and write down our dreams. So really, really take it easy this week in terms of personal improvement that no one can see but you. And then on the mundane world, we'll see it happening on the collective and see what's going on with Gaza. Is everyone going to stop this tormenting of children? And is everyone going to help Ukraine? Or are we just going to stand there and let dictators start to run our world again like they tried to in the 60s and the 80s? No. I think that as a human, we'll be okay. We can get together. We can see through the delusion that separates us because, again, powers that be will always try to come in and separate. And that's how they win, is separating people apart. Moms away from their children, children away from their fathers. This is the beginning of breaking down a human, is when they don't have the security they need from their parents. And breaking down a human is real. It is real because I am from the Vietnam era. And I've lived in America for a long time to know the difference in how each society raises their children. East and West, all the way. And then I lived in Europe for about 3 years. And I saw that. I met a lot of children there whose moms were married to GIs that were German. Met a lot of German people like that. And so all you can know is that the whole world exists because of love. Without love, there is no life on earth. And love right now is very hard to come by, and empathy. So really take your time this week and plan, write things out, do what you got to do that makes you happy, that doesn't hurt other people. God bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to my spiritual children for connecting with me. And I really appreciate you guys. And I'd love it if you guys followed and subscribed to my YouTube page or my Instagram page or my Twitter page, which is Jody Boots, at Jody Boots. So really, really love yourself this week because you deserve it, okay? That's why you're on earth, to be a better person, and you deserve all that love that you give. Especially give it to yourself. Thank you. I will be back next week, and I am Jody Shirami at Astro Podcast, and this is Studio Cloud 9. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, and sending lots of love. Love, 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 love.